What's going on? How are we doing? I'm not feeling love this morning. I'm sorry. I just had to break it up. I'm not feeling love this morning. Can we all stand, please? And let's worship our God Almighty, for He reigns. He woke us up this morning. Can I hear an amen, please? Thank you. Thank you. Now let's get the love going and let's start singing. Praise Jesus.
lost, but He brought me in. His love for me. Oh, His love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Realized He has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, He died for me. The Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who You say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who You say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who You say I am. I am who You say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In our Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who You say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who You say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who You say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who You say I am. You are who You say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who You say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who You say I am. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
Amen. In Luke chapter 11, then He said to them, suppose one of you has a friend, and he goes to him at midnight and says, friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread, because a friend of mine on a journey has come to me, and I have nothing to set before him. Then the one answers inside, don't bother me, the door's already locked and my children are in bed. I can't get up and give you anything. I tell you, though he will not get up and give him the bread because he's his friend, yet because of the man's boldness, he'll get up and give him as much as he needs. So I say to you, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks the door will be open.
praise and honor unto thee. Alone in my sorrow, washes over me. You have made me new. Now life begins with you.
We're going to go ahead and let the kids stay here with us today. I'm assuming this is up here for a reason, Seth. Can you hold on to this? We don't need that right now. Well, you know what today reminds me of as I'm listening and walking around and looking at people? I imagine that today, or it reminds me of what it must have been like, and I'm hoping the outcome will be the same as it was in the beginning, but when the women went and they were walking to the tomb, the journey that they had, they were walking up there expecting that Jesus would still be dead. And the mood today seems that same kind of concept. It's like people are just kind of, you're just kind of here, just kind of going through the motions. As if you're expecting that the tomb's still going to be empty, that Jesus is dead. What we found out, though, is once she got there, the stone was moved, the angels were there and said, hey, don't be afraid, he's not here. He's not even here. See, I've noticed something in the past couple of weeks. See, for about a month now, maybe a little bit longer, we have started this intercessory prayer where Howard and sometimes me and Linda are showing up here every Thursday at 10 o'clock and we're praying. We're praying for you. We're praying for the county. We're praying for the city of Casey. We're praying for the state. We're praying for the government. We're praying for people that have just reached out and said, hey, will you pray for me? Since we began doing that, we uncovered some sickness that people have having that they weren't aware of. And because of that sickness, that spiritual sickness they have been going through, that has resulted in them claiming to have physical illnesses and not showing up anymore. Have you noticed that? Look beside you. Look at the chair that's empty beside you. Look in front of you, the chair that's empty in front of you. Look behind you at the chair that's empty behind you. At people that were sitting here before we started this prayer, before we started this shape experience, that were sitting there, that have become sick, spiritually sick, and said, hey, you know what? I got an excuse. I'm not coming today. I'm not going to be there today. Whole families have been affected by this spiritual sickness. And yet they don't understand why. They don't understand the cure. See, the devil doesn't want you to understand you're shaped for significance. He doesn't want to understand what he has for you to do. He doesn't want you to believe that you have a purpose. So whatever he can do to keep you away, he's going to do. And those of you that have fought through all this, and I know that these people that aren't here aren't the only ones that felt this going on. I know for a fact that there's people sitting here right now that you felt the same way and you didn't want to come a day. That your bed felt pretty comfortable that morning, that you felt exhausted. You had an excuse because you had such a busy week. And all the trauma and all the gossip and all the other stuff that happened at work, you were like, look, I can just stay home today and I can sleep in. Oh, that'll make me feel so much better. Look around you at the empty seats. You can see from their experience that it doesn't make you feel better. Or they'd be here. They'd be here testifying to you that, hey, I skipped church because I didn't feel like being there today, and look how much better I am. They're not here, are they? Facebook is filled with their stories of how they feel so bad about this and how they feel so bad about that and how their life is turned upside down and how this is going wrong and that's going wrong. But yet they still don't go to the person that can provide them the medicine to make them feel better. Where just months ago they stood up here with you guys and saying, hey, you know what, God proved in my life that what's impossible for man is possible for God. He proved it in my life. I'm a walking testimony of that. That same God that had them up here saying that, it's the same God that could get them back up here. And that's our job right now, is that we need to remember those people and be praying for them. Don't mark them off your list. Don't say, well, you know, they backslide, they've done this, they've done that. They don't have faith in God. Don't do that. We're not that church. We're not that church. We're going to keep calling them. We're going to keep loving on them, keep sending them messages saying, hey, brother, what's wrong? Hey, sister, what's going on? Hiding is not going to find the answer for you. You got to get out. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The days I don't want to be here is the day I guarantee you I will be here. Because the days I don't want to be here is the day that the devil is telling me, don't go to church today because the God's got something for you and I don't want you to have it. And I've never been proven wrong. Tuesday nights when the men's meet, we sit out there, and we started out with 12 men, and we've been religiously showing up, and the men have been coming, and they've been pouring out what's been going on in their lives, and we just sit there watching them have one change after another change. But you know what? They're not perfect. They sit out there and they'll say, hey, brother, I'm sorry, but I think I just picked a rock back up. I just picked another rock up. And we're like, dude, you got to get off my porch. This is a porch of saints. We don't put up with that. We don't put up with backsliding. We don't put up with you falling. We don't put up with you grabbing rocks that we helped you get rid of. What are you wasting my time for? Get off my porch. That's exactly right. It's not true. We're like, brother, we've been there. Let me help you. What do we need to do to get you past that rock? What do we do to get you put it back at the cross? What do you need? That same God that took it away the first time is the same God that will take it away the second time. He never gets tired of taking it away from you. Question is, when are you going to get tired of picking it up? When are you going to get tired of picking it up? See, the people that are here, they're not here because they're on their deathbed. They're not here because they can't walk today. They couldn't breathe. I guarantee you the people that were here, that are not here today, have been at work all week. I guarantee you Monday morning, less than 24 hours away, they'll be at work again. They were cured. No, they weren't cured. They're spiritually sick. It's the spiritual sickness that has caused our country to be where it is today. It's the spiritual sickness that have caused our communities to be where they're at, our families to be where they're at, their churches are at. Not medical illnesses, not physical illness, spiritual illnesses that have corrupted the churches, that have corrupted our families. And we have a responsibility to make sure that those people, when they leave with a conscience of knowing that they can come back. They leave with a conscience of knowing that they're loved. That everyone that leaves is a prodigal son. Go out, do what you got to do. We're still going to be seeking you. We're still going to love on you. We're still going to ask you back. And when you walk in the door, we're going to hug on you and love on you. And we're going to start the treatment all over again. We're going to wipe the tears from your eyes. We're going to put bandages on your wounds. We're going to nurse you back to spiritual health just like we did the day you first walked in. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll do it again the next day. We'll do it again another month. We'll do it again another year. Why? Because that's what Christ did for us. And we're no better than you. You can't be a non-judgmental church. You can't be a church that says we open our arms to you if you don't agree to open your hearts. Anybody can give somebody a hug with their arms, but it means so much more when they give you a hug with their heart. It means so much more. We've done this SHAPE series. We've talked about the spiritual gifts. We've talked about the heart of man. We've talked about the abilities. We talked about each other's personalities, those that we just love their personalities, those that we just tolerate. The Bible says we're supposed to accept each other with the way they are we not? We're supposed to be intolerant of sin, not intolerant of each other. We've got that backwards nowadays. We've become more tolerant of sin and less tolerant of people. I wonder the bars are more full on Saturday night than the churches are on Sunday morning. I wonder the bars never have to shut down because they don't have any money, but the churches are shutting down because nobody's tithing to God that gave them the breath to breathe. It's because we're tolerant of sin and intolerant of people's personalities. Today we're going to talk about experiences. There ain't nobody in here that don't have some. You may not have money. You may not have a lot of friends. You may not have a lot of clothes, a lot of bikes, a lot of cars, but you got a lot of experiences. So one thing you're guaranteed of life is that you're going to have an experience, good or bad, you're going to have it. No matter what, you're going to have it. We've been talking about Job as our primary verse here. Job 10 verse 8 says, your hands shaped me and made me. Your hands shaped me and made me. See, there's two different parts there. Made me means as creation, you were created, but shaped me is what makes that individual become who you are. It's that technique of just slowly moving things until you get them exactly where you want them. We use the potter a lot to look at that, but you can look at different things. You can look at the blacksmith that's making a horseshoe, or you can look at the blacksmith that is making a knife and how they begin to shape it to the style and the type of piece that he wants to make. See, he took the metal that was made. He might have made the metal, but then he shaped that metal for a purpose. And see, that's what that verse means. It's like, look, God, not only did you make me, you also shaped me into who I am. You shaped me into who I am today. Good and bad, like me or not, you shaped me into the way I am. See, experiences makes us one or two things. They either make us bitter or they make us better. Experiences either make you bitter or make you better. You know what the difference is between making an experience bitter or better? What's the determining factor? You. You're the determining factor to make an experience bitter or make an experience better. See, I can spend my entire life being bitter. And believe me, I have spent a lot of my life being bitter about things that have happened in my life. A lot of my life I've used it to be bitter. But that bitterness never made me better. But when I learned to accept those experiences, take from them what I needed, take from them from what was being taught, and that made my life better. See, I have a belief. Everybody I meet has a purpose. God put that person in my life for a reason. One is either to make me better, meaning I take away from them, or the other one is to make me better, meaning I don't do what they did. No matter what, you offer me something. No matter what the interaction is, you have offered me something, either teaching me how to be or you're teaching me how not to be. Imagine how life changes for you when you accept that. When you accept the fact that no matter what the experience I've had with you, no matter what came out of your intentions, I have the opportunity to make it better by taking out from either to do or not to do. It'll change your whole life. I don't want to be like this person, so I'll learn not to watch this in myself and not be like this. I want to be like this, because this is what works. This is what draws people to Christ. This is what makes me feel and be better for Christ. So I'm going to take from you what was better. But see, what we do is we take this person that gives to us something negative and we become bitter. So instead of becoming better as a person, we become more bitter. And bitterness does what? Festers, makes things worse, right? Some people like bitter things, right? You ever get someone that likes, oh, I like a lemon. But if you tell them, here, eat this lemon all the time, how many people would still like lemons? They get tired of that bitter taste. They don't want it all the time. But see, we choose bitterness, we choose to keep it in our life. So your experiences, you have a choice. You can either use it to make you better, or you can use it to make you bitter. But the choice is you. It's not their choice. It's not their choice. You know, I realized something, and when I was thinking at this, anybody here like chocolate chip cookies? Yeah? Anybody like cake? All right. So what goes into a chocolate chip cookie? Who knows? Butter, sugar, chocolate chips, flour, eggs, sugar. Does sugar go in it? All right. So, how does flour taste? Flour. How many people sit down with a bowl of flour and go, man, this is good. This is the best flour I've ever eaten. No, you don't. Put your hand down. I've been around you. How many people like flour? Think it's the greatest thing ever. I wish I could just eat more flour because it's not that expensive. How about nobody's raising their hand? How many people love raw eggs? I mean, just give me a big old glass full of raw eggs, man. I'm telling you right now, that would be awesome. Nobody likes raw eggs? No? Why not? It's nasty. What? So? But what happens when I take that flour, which tastes awful, and I take that egg, raw egg, which tastes awful, and I put it together and start mixing it, and then I start adding some chocolate chips, and start adding some butter. Huh? Yeah. And then I take the chocolate chip. And I put it back in and I start mixing that all together. And I have this nice, wonderful cookie dough, right? And then you take that cookie dough and you pull out of it and you put it on a pan and then you bake it. And you start smelling something. What happens? Your mouth starts watering. And if you're like me, your mouth starts watering, your pants become automatically tight as your gut prepares to consume the whole dozen of the cookies, and you smell them in the oven and they start coming out. And you're like, oh, this is going to be good. And you start eating those cookies and you realize, oh, this was really good. Do you realize that your life is like making chocolate chip cookies? You have things in your life that aren't very good. We all do. We all have flour in our life that doesn't taste very good. It isn't really good. It leaves a bitter taste in our mouth. We're like, I don't like this. And we have some eggs that really aren't very good. And then we have some good experiences. We have the chocolate chips over here that are good experiences. And when you mix them all together and then you put them in the oven and you bake them, meaning you put them through trials and tribulations, and you take them out, what a sweet cookie you have. But see, if you focus on the flour and the raw eggs, you don't have a cookie, do you? Do you? You got no cookie. The cookie monster dies of starvation. You got to have the cookie, guys. You got to look at your life like that. You're going to have flour. You're going to have raw eggs in your life. You're going to have things that are not going to be good. You got to mix those in with the chocolate chip. You got to mix those things with the other things. That way, when you go through the trials and tribulations, you actually come out with what God intended was a nice, one, gooey, delicious cookie. Some of us are too busy eating raw eggs and flour. And we spend our whole life focusing on, I can't make nothing out of this flour. I can't make any. You got to have more than just flour to make biscuits. You can't make anything but fake snow out of flour that I know of. Because no matter what, you got to put something with it to make anything you like. Anything you like, you got to add the flour. If you just bake flour on its own, you still don't have anything. Huh? You got baked flour. You got nothing. That's what we do. We focus so much on the bad experiences that when we come through the trials and tribulations and we're standing there and now we're miserable because all we got is baked flour. We got what we started for, but it's been through the heat, it's been through the trial, it's been through tribulation, but you don't have anything positive out of it. That's why I said that people are spiritual sick, because they have these bad experiences. They know that if they mix them with what God intended for them, they take the good and add it to the bad, and then they go through the trials and tribulations, they come out and they go, look at what God made. And be like, wow, wow, wow. Guys, which would you rather have? Flour, raw eggs, or a chocolate chip cookie? See, D.L. Moody said, God often whispers in pleasure, but he shouts in our pain. God often shouts in our pain. And I thought about that. I was like, what does that mean? He shouts in our pain. And I got to thinking about it. You know, when we're talking to each other, unless you're one of my kids, you typically just talk. You have what we call inside voice, right? It's just an inside voice. It's just a conversation between you and me. We're just talking. It's just for you and me. We're just talking. But if you go out here and you get on the edge and a car's coming and you get ready to take that step, what do you think I'm going to do? You think I'm going to whisper? Anybody? Am I going to just, oh, hey, Bob, don't step in the traffic, buddy? You think that's what I'm going to do? As soon as Bob takes that step, I'm going to yell, hey, Bob, watch out! Don't you think that's what God's doing? He's like, look, you're doing good. We're just having a conversation. When you're doing good, when life is good, don't you think that's when you're walking with Jesus? You don't need to yell if you're walking with Jesus, do you? Think about it. If I'm walking beside you, I'm not going to be yelling at you, man. We're just having a conversation. It's a normal conversation. Man, I really appreciate what you did today, man. Jordan, the music was really good, man. I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate you studying on the songs. I appreciate you coming in and working hard. I mean, we're just having a conversation. But if Jordan gets ready to take that step out onto the street, I'm going to yell, hey, Jordan, watch out! Not only am I trying to get his attention, I'm trying to save him from getting hurt. And it's funny that the louder God speaks, the less we listen. Isn't that funny? The louder God speaks, the less we listen. The less we listen. So experiences that have shaped me, we all know, we've all been through them. Family and relational experiences shape me, good or bad, as we talked about before. Educational experiences, whether it's the school of hard knocks or college, it doesn't matter. That shapes who you are. Other experience, my spiritual experiences, my time with God, my walk with God will shape who I am. That experience with Him will change who I am, whether I'm a person of bitterness and loneliness, or a person of self-loathing or anxiety. That's because my time with God isn't being spent with Him. How can I have anxiety if I'm spending all my time with God? God's not a God of anxiety, is He? So if I'm spending my time with Him, shouldn't that give me comfort? Shouldn't that give me assurance? Shouldn't that give me a sense of feeling like I can accomplish things? Because I'm walking with the one that not only created me, but He also shaped me. I'm walking with the one that also not only created me, but created everything around me. I'm walking with the one that loved me so much that He sent His Son to die on the cross. How can I have any anxiety if that's who I'm walking with? But yet I do. But yet I do. It's impossible. It's impossible. My vocation experiences, the job I have, shapes me. If you're in a job that's filled with non-believers and you're not strong because you're not walking with Christ, that was going to start to shape you, because guess how you're going to begin to act? Guess how you're going to begin to talk? Guess how you're going to have to start thinking? Your vocation experiences will start to shape you. And unfortunately, your painful experiences will shape you. Out of all the experiences that we go through, your painful experiences are the ones that shape you the most. They impact you the most. Can you believe that? Those are the ones we pull from the most, is the painful experiences, the things that we go through. But I want to tell you, God has a plan for that. God has a solution for that. Look over in Genesis 50, verse 20. Now the story here, and you probably have heard it for any of you that's been through any Sunday school, is Joseph was, have you ever heard of anybody ever heard of Joseph? You know what I'm talking about? So Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers. They were jealous of him because his father really loved him and spent time with him, and his heart was with God, and they were jealous of him, and they were going to kill him. They couldn't kill him, and so they tried to figure out what to do, and so they sold him into slavery. So here's Joseph. He's in slavery. He becomes part of the king's party and everything, and the people that bought him love him. Now Joseph's brothers and his family have now gone into a famine. They began to have difficulty. And so what do? They go to the king and they said, hey, we need help. Now Joseph, at this point, he was in charge of all the distribution. He was in charge of sending everything out, giving people what they needed, taking care of people. And so they showed up, and they didn't know who he was, of course. And so they show up, and they're going to have this meeting with him. And Joseph prepares a meal for them, and he has them come in. And so they show up, and they're in the middle of this dinner, and Joseph finally tells them who he is. Now, if you're the brothers and you know what you did to him, what would your thought be? Oh, it's going to be real. This guy works for the king. He's in charge of distributing everything. For lack of better words, we just screwed him over. He's going to seek revenge on us. We're going to go to jail. Not only are we going to jail, we're going to starve to death because he ain't going to give us nothing. Now, let's see what he says, though. Oh, this is great what he says. He says, you intended to harm me. You intended to hurt me. You intended for me not to be here. You intended these things bad to happen to me. But God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. See, he had a choice. He could take that experience and be bitter. He could choose that experience to be bitter. And instead, he chose it to be better. He was better for himself because he realized that what had happened to him was God's plan, that God had intended that bad to happen to him, because if it hadn't happened to him, he wouldn't be in that position to save his family. Think about it. If it hadn't happened to him, if they hadn't sold him into slavery, if that slavery hadn't given him to the king, if the king hadn't loved him as far as a servant goes and raised him up inside the chapel to become who he became, his family would have died. If he would have remained bitter, his family would have died. See, guys, that's the importance for us as we look around at the empty seats, is for us not to be bitter that they're not sitting there. Instead, we should be praying for them and loving on them, so when God brings them back, we can say the same thing to them. What God intended, what you intended to hurt me, God intended for good. We're still here to love on you and take care of you and get you through this. You don't understand the power of that message right there. People intend to hurt you. You got to know that God is going to take that experience. If you choose not to be bitter, God will take that experience, make you better, and help you do more for Him. But it's up to you. You can't use somebody that's going to stay bitter. Somebody's going to seek revenge. Can't use you. Not only did He save His family, He says in there that I saved many. because of what had happened. You have the power by taking your experiences and taking away the bitterness and seeking God for the betterness, and then taking that bitterness, and you can save many. You can save many. Because God's going to put you where He needs you if you'll use that experience to get there. And that's what Joseph did. That's what Joseph did. He took that experience and he ran with it. Look over with me in John chapter 13. In verse 7, Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I'm doing, but later you will understand." You know, sometimes when we go through these experiences and we're trying to figure out God's purpose behind these experiences, you got to realize that you're not going to understand, and sometimes you're not even going to understand until you get there. Sometimes you're not even going to understand until you get to heaven and realize the impact of what God had used you for because of the experience that you're going through. Rarely does it make sense to us of while we're going through it. It's very hard to look at an experience that we're going through a situation, and look at that situation and go, "Oh, I know what you're doing, God. I got it." What do we do instead? We most likely, majority of us go, "Why? Why are you doing this to me? What did I do to deserve this?" See, if you change your attitude from a bitterness or being mad at God because of a situation, instead of saying, "Oh God, I don't like this. I ain't gonna lie. I do not like what we're going through, but I can't wait to see what you're gonna do with it. I can't wait to see what you're gonna do with it." What happens then? How does your life change then when you just have a little bit of changing one word from bitter to better? It gets better because He's in control. That's right. There's only one thing blocking you from God's betterness in your life, and that's you. It's the one thing that God chose to do that I still to this day will never understand, is why in the world He took some people that are as dumb as we are and gave us the ability to have free will to do what we want. That's the dumbest thing ever. But you do that to things and people that you love, because you want them to love you, and you want that love to be real. You don't want that love to be manifested out of fear. You don't want that love to be manifested out of control. You want it to be freely given, because it means so much more. It feels so much better when it's freely given. And God says, "Look, I want that relationship with you. I want it to be free. I'm giving it to you freely. I want it to be freely given to me." So the barrier between better and bitter is us. Joseph had a choice. The barrier between better and better was his choice. And he understood, God's got a plan for me. When the situation happened, he could have been sitting there mourning. When things happened to him, he could be sitting there crying and saying, "Oh, God, why are you allowing this thing to happen?" Instead, he looked at the situation and said, "This sucks, but I can't wait to see what you're going to do with it. I can't wait to see what's going to be at the end of the road here. I'm focused on you. Wherever you take me is where I'm going to go." See, God's purpose for my experience, sometimes we just don't understand. I wish I could tell you that I knew what God was putting you through, whatever it is you've been going through, but I don't have that answer. I'm not going to sit here and tell you like some of the other people, other Christians, other churches say, "Well, the reason why you're having this experience is because you don't have enough faith." The Bible's filled with people that had faith that went through the experience. There is nobody with more faith than Jesus Christ Himself, and look at the experience that He went through. So it can't be faith. It's the reason why you go through what you're going through. "Oh, well, you're going through all this because you don't trust God enough." You don't trust God enough. Those people you just want to look at and say, "Do you see this right hand? Do you trust if you say that again, I'm going to smack you across the face? Because that's what it means to me. It's nonsense. The Bible doesn't say anywhere that I'm not going to go through trials and tribulations just because I don't trust God. Jesus trusted God as much as anybody because he was God, but he went through 40 days and 40 nights of temptation. He went through crying at Gethsemane too much, so bad that the tears turned to blood. He went through 40 lashes. He got through nailed to the cross. Do you think he trusted God? Yes. Of course he did. You go through trials and tribulations. You go through things because we live in a world full of sin. We go through these things because we choose to go through these things. And we can choose how we're going to use those things. Seth, I told you before, Seth has asked me these questions before when we're talking about different things. He said, look, if you could change anything in your life, what would you change? And I thought about that very hard, and I shared it with the men's group, and I was like, I wouldn't change anything. He goes, why not? Because I don't know who I would have been if I changed anything. I don't know where I'd be today. I don't know who I'd be today if I changed anything. I just don't know. I know where I'm at right now. I know how God's using me right now. I know who God is right now. That's what I'll hold on to. Anything, you take anything out, you change anything, who knows who I would have become. But I could choose to be bitter about my childhood. I can choose to be bitter about the way I grew up as a young adult. I can choose to be bitter about where I'm at with the things that aren't perfect and how somebody has something else. I can choose to be bitter and put a stop on what God's got planned for me. Or I can say, you know what, I'm going to take from that and make my life better. I'm going to take what you intended to hurt me and I'm going to use it for God's glory to save others. And I'm not alone. A lot of you have been doing the same thing. A lot of you have been looking at it the same way. You know, God's purpose for my experience is also to teach me to trust Him. Look over in 2 Corinthians with me. 2 Corinthians 1, chapter 1, verse 9. And we're going to start at the second part of this. But this has happened that we may not rely on ourselves, but on God who raises the dead. But this has happened. What has happened? This. What is this? This has happened. The bad experiences in your life. That's what the this is. That's what the this is. The bad experiences in my life. So let's change it. But the bad experiences in my life happen that we may not rely on ourselves, but on God who raises the dead. See, He wants to teach us to rely on Him, to look to Him, to acknowledge Him, to understand who He is. I tell you right now, if life was full of roses, if life was perfect, you would get to the point, just like these churches that we have up here that we looked at in Revelations, you'd get to the point to where you weren't hot or cold, you didn't even know who a God is, you didn't care who God was, because everything was every day was perfect. And you didn't think that you would need Him anymore. You wouldn't understand the significance of His power. You wouldn't understand the blood of Christ. You wouldn't understand anything. It's hard enough trying to figure life out now. Take that piece out. And think of how lost you would be. He said this, meaning the bad experiences happened for a reason. So that we learn to rely on God. See, that's part of the problem that we're facing right now in churches, is people have forgotten to rely on God. They've forgotten what it means to trust and believe in God. You know, the wonderful thing about doing these Bible studies on Sunday night, and we went through these 7 churches, and if you haven't looked at what these guys came up with, look at it. But it's amazing. We started looking at it, and we're like, hey, what did God say was bad with this church? What did Jesus say was bad with these churches? What did He say was good with it? What did He suggest that they do? What was a warning? Did He warn them of something was going to happen? And we looked at these 7 churches, and the reason I think that people don't preach on Revelation anymore, the reason why they don't do Bible studies on Revelation, because these are mirrors. These are mirrors. And you look at these and you can say, what church am I? Because the warning and the outcome is the same. today. See, people don't want to look at this. They don't want to look up here and say, oh, look, I'm doing the same thing as this church right here. I've got false teachers in my church. Well, that's okay. The Bible doesn't really talk about that. It does so. Right there in Revelation, there's a whole church that he talks about false teachers and fornication and orgies and all kinds of stuff in the church. It's right there. There's a church right there if you want to read about it. There's a church right there that isn't about God. They're not hot or cold. They're not for God. They're not against God. They're just kind of functioning together. They're just there. It's right there. That's what happens if you're that way. There's a church right there. Oh my God, this church right here is in the middle of where Satan is, where his throne is in the country. There's that church right there. Look at what they're doing wrong. They got false teaching, sexual morality, eating food sacrificed to idols. It's right there. You can look at these things and figure out where you're going and what's going on. Or you look at the poor little church over here at Smyrna, getting their butt kicked spiritually every single day. Is that right? Every day. Getting their butt kicked every single day. They even know that they're going to die. And yet they keep going. They keep going. I have nothing to know what... I was like, I don't know where I was going with that, and I still don't. But the point is that the experiences that we go through is to trust us. Trust God. You got to trust God. See, Joseph had to do that. He had to trust while he was going through these things. David had to do that when he was going through these things. Daniel had to do that when he was going through these things. John had to do this. Paul had to do this. Jesus trusted God. You have to do that when you're going through the bad experiences. You got to trust him. Hey, I don't know what this is about, but I know at the end you're going to use it for your glory. I have no idea why I got off on this right here, but I did. If anybody knows, let me know later. See, guys, the experiences that we go through, if we choose to use them and learn from them for God, instead of using them as a crutch, instead of using them as a deterrent, instead of using them to control us. See, the bad experiences in my mind, the way I visualize it, is the same thing as a bit for a horse. See, a horse thinks it's free because it's running around. A horse thinks it's free because it's chewing on something. But as soon as you pull the rein on that bit, guess what it does, no matter what it wants to do? It turns its head whatever way you're pulling it. See, that's the way bad experiences are for us. If we choose to keep chewing on them, we choose to keep them in our mouth. Those bad experiences, when we start to move forward, will grab a hold of us and will turn us in the wrong direction. That's what happens when we become bitter. It becomes a bit in our mouth. Bitter equals bit in our mouth. Better is free. We're spitting it out. We're not letting that control us. We're able to move in the direction that God has us in. You know, God has a purpose for my experiences. One is to build my character. We learn in the trenches. How many times have you said, oh, let me tell you what you should do because I've done it before and it didn't work out very well? Let me share with you how I've done this or that. I mean, let's just talk about simple things like fixing a motorcycle or doing laundry or making a pie or baking cookies. How many times have you screwed it up and you said, hey, just don't use that brand, because I'm going to tell you, if you use that brand right there, it might be cheaper, but it's going to taste bad. Or if you go to fix your motorcycle and you've picked up something and you're like, yeah, I bought this part online because it was only $15. The regular part was $45, so I went ahead and paid the $15, and let me tell you, it's a piece of crap. It lasted 2 weeks. Let me go ahead and warn you, don't buy that part, Daniel. I'm telling you, just don't do it. It's going to break in 2 weeks. Just go ahead and spend the $45 and get the good part. It's my experiences that helped me, that I've learned because I was in the trenches. Your character is what you've learned over time. It's how you become who you are. It's those things that you've gone through. Look over in Romans with me. Romans chapter 5, 3 through 4. He says, "Not only so, but we also glory in the sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not push us to shame, because God's love has been poured out unto our hearts through the Holy Spirit, who was given to us." See, patience is waiting. See, I'm not a patient person, and I've realized one and very important thing is that God is a very, very funny God. He's hilarious. I don't always laugh at what he does, but I realize looking back, he's pretty funny. See, I'm not a very patient person. I want things done, and I want them done now. That's just who I am. I expect things to be taken care of. I expect things to be done. So what does God do? He does two things. One is he asks me to start a church. Talk about needing patience. There's a lot of patience that goes into that. The second thing he did is he gave me a job so that I could do the ministry. And the job that he gave me requires me to go to doctor's offices, and I sit there and wait to be seen. See, you guys complain if you go to a doctor's once a month or every other month and you have to sit there for a little bit and wait. I do this every day. Sometimes 2 or 3 times in the day. I go and I wait. And then I go see the doctor. And then I leave. And I go to the next doctor. And I sit. And I wait. And then when I'm done with all that, I tell people what they need. And then I have to wait for someone to give me permission to get it done. I spend a lot of time waiting and doing, waiting and doing and waiting. In the military, we had a phrase all the time, hurry up and wait. And that's what my life basically revolves around. I hurry up and do my part, and then I wait on somebody else. That requires patience. So God's like, I think this is funny. He doesn't like to wait. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call him to ministry. He's got to not only wait for me, he's got to wait for people in the congregation. He's got to wait for his construction crew to start doing stuff. He's got to wait for them to be ready too. He's got to wait. I'm like, you ain't funny. Then he's like, I'm going to give you a job that's going to make you do nothing but wait. But it's changed my character because I've had to wait on him. I had to be patient because of him. You know, the other thing about character is it's not taking the easy way out. It's not taking the easy way out. Chris and I and the core team, we talk about this all the time. There's things we know we could do to speed things up in this process. How do we know that we can do them? How do we know that they work? Because other places have done them before. Right or wrong, I'm not saying either way or not. It's just not what God called us. It's not the way he called us to do this church. It's not the way that we feel that is the character of this church to do it that way. But we know, without a shadow of a doubt, we could speed some things up. We could make some things happen if we do certain things. But we have said, no, this isn't the character of this church. This is not. We're waiting on God to do it. One of our philosophies is we're not doing it man's way, we're going to do it God's way. God's about building character, not building buildings. Do you understand that? God's about building the character, not only the character of the church, but the character of the individuals inside the church. See, a church is really not this building. We could do this anyway. We choose to do it here because, 1, it gets very hot outside, so this makes us more comfortable. 2, it gets cold outside, so this makes us more comfortable. 3, it rains at times. And 4, we've packed all this stuff up once before and taken it places in and out every other Sunday. It ain't fun. The building makes life a little bit easier on us, but it doesn't make us a church. Do you understand that? The building doesn't make us a church. It just identifies for people, this is where this body, where this church meets. This church meets at this building. You understand that? We call it a church, but it's really just a building that we meet at. But it's the patience that you have to have that develops your character. Waiting on God to shape you. Because remember, we're doing shape. If you don't wait for this to get to right shape, what are you going to have? Are you going to have the right product? Are you going to have what you need? No, you got to wait for it to get shaped the way. And then you got to wait for it to harden. And then you got to wait for you to put it in the what is that stupid thing called? Kiln. I was going to say kilt. That would have been funny, wouldn't it? The kiln. And then after the kiln, you got to take it out and make sure it's hardened right and that it's ready to be used and there's no cracks and all that. There's a lot of work that goes into making that and shaping that. And if you don't have patience in going through the steps, going through the process, you don't have a proper final product. For those that ride motorcycles, those that remember, do you remember or heard about, I think most of us probably are close to the age or at the end, we were probably alive but don't know too much about it. You remember AMF motorcycles? They had everything they needed to make a Harley. Everything except for one thing. They didn't take the time to be patient and go through the steps the way they were supposed to. And the AMF has the worst reputation of any motorcycle brand of Harleys that you can buy. So if you buy an AMF, they're like, hey, you got a piece of junk. It's a Harley. But because they owned it, they didn't take the time to go through the process. Their character in that motorcycle was not a very good character. All the pictures you see of AMF motorcycles are either in a museum or are on top of a puddle of oil. That's just what they were known for. There wasn't the time, the patience that went through the process. And you got to understand, you're the same way. You can either be something that has a reputation of constantly being broken down, constantly not working, simply because you're not building your character of going through the process that Christ and God has had for you in order for you to be what He's intended you to be. You're not allowing Him to shape you. You're fighting Him as you go through the process. You're fighting Him as you go through the process. It's through the trenches that we learn who our character is. You know what? In the motorcycle community, that's how you find out who your brothers are. You start going through troubles, the first guy out the door, you realize real quickly that ain't your brother. The guy that stood in front of you when something bad's going to happen, that's your brother. How did you find out that he was your brother or not? You went through the trenches. Something was happening. Did he stand by you or not? Or did he run out the door? See, the churches are the same way. We're going to go through stuff. We're going to go through the trenches. We're going to have attacks. You find out who your brother is by the one that says, hey, I'm standing not behind you. I'm standing beside you. And if it gets really bad, I'll get in front of the bullet for you. And then the other ones are the ones that says, hey, get away from me. I don't want nothing to do with this. And they run the other way or they push you out. See, the character of this church needs to be the character of saying we're going to go through trenches. I don't know how many trenches we have dug. I don't know how many trenches we have fought our way out of, but I can tell you it's ever ending. If there was a visual aid that we could give to show you, it would be overwhelming. It looked like World War II or World War I when you went down to Europe and all you saw was trenches all over the place. That's what it feels like when you fight a spiritual war. We're constantly building trenches. But you find out who your character is how you fight during the war. You can be big and bad all day long as there's no war. We find out if you're big and bad when the war comes. That's how we find out who your character is. You look beside you at the people that aren't here, you got to ask yourself, where are they and why are they not fighting out of the trenches? Why can't they get out? Do they not know I'm here? What is their character? Is their character to run? Then how do we help them realize that that's not what God intended them to do? That they got to learn to love Him and trust Him and be who He's supposed to be. The other purpose of my experience is to accomplish God's purpose. Is to accomplish God's purpose. Look over with me in Philippians chapter 1, verse 12. Verse 13, I'm sorry. For it is God who works in you and will, it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose. See, my experience is so that we can fulfill God's purpose. You ever wonder sometimes why you end up where you ended up? And you ended up there because somebody needed you? Or you didn't go somewhere and you found out it was a good that you didn't show up? See, God has your experiences for His purpose. And you got to realize that the things we're going through are for His purpose. He allows them for His purpose. The problem is, again, is what you do with those things. Do I accept it? Am I willing to do what God has for me to do while I'm going through those experiences? He says His purpose. He says, for it is God who works in you. See, I like that because it identifies who it is. It's the God who works in you. Not on you, not around you. He's in you, in the very essence of who you are. It's the God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose. See, Joseph knew that God dwelled in him. And he knew that what he was going through was going to be to fulfill his purpose. But I promise you, there's nothing in Scripture that makes me believe that he knew what God's purpose was while he was going through that experience. He didn't know a famine was going to come. He didn't know his family was going to show up one day and need help. He didn't know any of those things. He only knew one thing, and that was that God was a God. And that God would take care of him. And that God would provide the needs. And God would take care of them if he just focused on God. And if you read the story of Joseph, you see that that's what he kept doing. He stayed focused on God. He didn't focus on the situation. He didn't focus on the bad things that were happening. He was focused on what God was going to do with those bad things. And we find out that he did a lot. And he had a purpose behind it. And if you keep reading it, you'll find out more about what the purpose that God had for us. You know that it's real interesting if you go and you read about Paul. See, Paul spent a lot of his time in jail. Did you know that? He wrote all these stories. He wrote all these letters to the churches. He did all this work, and a lot of times he was in jail. He had a very bad situation. Jail's pretty bad. Those who have been in jail, you agree? Pretty much sucks. It's not a place that you voluntarily asked to go to. It's a bad experience. But while Paul was in jail, he kept showing people God's love. You know, Paul converted Rome to Christianity, and the whole time he did that while he was in prison. In a bad situation, a bad experience. Paul chose not to look at the bad, but he chose to look at using it for God. Rome was converted to Christianity while this man was in prison. They couldn't do nothing about it. What are you going to do, put him in jail? He was already there. See, Paul, in a lot of ways, had it easy because Paul was in a physical prison. The problem that a lot of you suffer from is not your physical prisons, but your spiritual or your emotional prisons that you put yourself in. And so you can choose while you're in those prisons that you put yourself in to still look for God's purpose in it and for him to free you out of it. It's the same thing. It's just a choice. Do I choose to throw the key away, or do I choose to use the key to let people in? Do I choose to share God with people even though I'm in this prison, that I'm here for a reason? I'm here for a reason. How do I use it for God's purpose? How do I let God use it for his purpose? So how do I use my experience? The first thing you got to do is you got to embrace them. Don't run away from them. Don't push them away. Don't act like they didn't happen. Embrace your experiences. Some good is better than no good at all. Look over in Galatians with me. Chapter 3, verse 3 and 4, it says, "Have you experienced so much in vain, if it really was in vain? So again I ask, does God give you his Spirit and work miracles among you by the works of the law or by the believing in what you have heard?" You got to embrace your experiences. Have you experienced anything? Is it in vain? Is it for no reason? that you went through those things? If so, then why even look at what God is? He said God gives you His Spirit and works miracles among you by the works of the law. No, but by believing in what you have heard. It's your experiences. It's the experiences of others that we're reading. But you got to learn to embrace your experiences. Say, hey, yeah, I made this mistake. It's okay. God forgave me. You know, it's funny how God works. And I don't care who you are, if you take a minute and you just calm down and take a deep breath, you'll find the same amazement in me. See, Crystal didn't know, and I've shared this before, she doesn't know about my sermons. I don't share them with her or anything. I want her to have the same experience that you have when she comes here, so that when I ask her later about how it went, she can tell me the truth versus telling me before I do it. Okay? Because if she tells me before I do it, I'm focused on that. I'm not focused on God. Because her opinion matters to me. And so I want her opinion afterwards, not before, because I don't want to be focused with it before. And she's very honest with me, and she'll tell me what she thinks. And before I preach, I don't care what she thinks. After I preach is when I care about what she thinks. So it's real funny because we're talking about embracing your experience, and we're talking about what we just said right here. And this morning, she said something to me. I was getting dressed. She goes, oh, you still got that spot on your back, and it keeps coming and going, whatever. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I said, it's just, it's my spot of life experiences or something like that. And she goes, oh, let me tell you about this book that I gave my daughters. And she starts telling me about this book. And it's funny how this book goes in with what we're talking about. And so she was about embracing your experiences. And she was talking about this book about this boy, that this man made this boy kind of like Pinocchio. What was it, Portelli? Puginello? Who wrote it? Max who? Lucado. Max Lucado. You can go read it if you want. I'll never read it, but you can go read it if you want. So anyway, so he makes this boy, and he sends the boy into town. And the boy comes back from town, and he's got spots on him. And he sends him back, and every time he comes back, he gets spots on him. So the guy decides to go into town. And when he goes into town, he notices that people have spots on them. And some people have little, and some people have a lot of spots on them. And then he realized that he finally met this one girl that had no spots on her. None whatsoever. And he was like, how come you don't have any spots? And see, the spots were from every time there was a flaw, every time you did something wrong, every time something looked bad, they put a sticker on you. And they just kept putting stickers on each other. So if you said something wrong, you got a sticker. If you thought something wrong, you got a sticker. If you looked wrong, you got a sticker. So no matter if wrong is wrong, and if you're wrong, you got a sticker. Thank God none of us have to wear stickers, right? But they would get a sticker. And he went up to this girl and goes, how come you don't have any stickers? And she says, because I've been forgiven and the stickers don't stick on me. They don't stick on me. It's not that I'm perfect. It's not that I don't do anything wrong. The stickers just don't stick on me because I've been forgiven. Do you realize, you as Christians, if you believe in the blood of Christ, that the stickers of your experiences, the stickers of your faults don't stick to you anymore? That's why we carry them. Hello? That's why you carry them, because they won't stick to you anymore. Because the blood of Christ was shed for you so that it would no longer stick, that your sins are no longer yours. They have been forgiven. They're not yours anymore. So for someone to hurt you, you have to grab those stickers and put them in your pocket and carry them around with you. See, hers didn't stick anymore. She didn't say she was clean. But see, your experiences, you have to embrace them. See, she didn't say, I don't have any bad experience. She didn't say I didn't do anything wrong. She just says, hey, they don't stick to me anymore. Meaning you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to walk around life not making a mistake. You're not going to struggle with things on day to day. It just means you got to choose not to let them stick to you and weigh you down. People, we spend way too much time trying to run from our past instead of saying, hey, this is what happened. And I've got to embrace it because God's going to make that something good. He's going to turn that into something great. I got to be okay with that instead of running away from it. The things that haunt you at night are the things you're running from. Those are the things you've got to embrace. You've got to say, look, I own that. And God's going to turn it into something great. Because the Bible says he's going to. We read about it. He promises us he's going to. Look over in Deuteronomy chapter 11. Verse 2 says, remember today that your children were not the ones who saw and experienced the discipline of the Lord your God, his majesty, his mighty hand, his outstretched arms. See, he's telling them right there, he says, look, your children didn't go through what you went through. Your children didn't see me the way you had to see me. But see, if they don't embrace it, if they try to push it away, if they try to act like it don't happen, they're never going to learn. If we pretend like the Old Testament in the Bible doesn't matter, like most of the people today do, then we're not going to be learning about God's majesty. We're not going to be learning about his love. We're not going to be learning. If people don't realize what you have gone through, who you are, they're not going to, number one, see you, what you have struggled with, how you have walked through the fire, how you have come to the point to where you are today that makes you who you are. But more importantly, they're not going to see who God is either. See, if we walk through life pretending like we're perfect, we walk through life like none of us sin, then nobody's going to really understand who God is, because right now we're telling a lie. We're telling a lie. We're not going to see God's power. You know, the testimony, when people stand up and they testify about what they were and who they were and the things that they had done, and you see where they're at today, and you're like, wow, God did that? If he can do that to you, I can't imagine what he's going to do to me. But instead, we're like, oh, you don't understand. I was bad. You can't love me. Or we're like, oh, no, I was perfect. We try to hide it so much, we walk around acting like we're perfect. And we go around putting stickers on people. The stickers that belong to us, we start putting them on people so that we can make ourselves feel better. But every time you reach in your pocket, they're still there, aren't they? You never run out of stickers. The only way to run out of stickers is when you finally realize, look, this is who I am. This is the experiences. I made bad choices. I'm not proud of them, but I'm proud of what God's done with those experiences. I'm proud of what God's made me today, and I'm not ashamed to share that with you. I'm not ashamed to share it with you of what God's done for me and what he's done to me. What do I need to do, or what do I need to take me out of the situation I'm in? We got to remember to those experiences and use God. You know, you can remember the bad experience. A lot of us said, how many times do you remember God getting you out of a bad situation? That's what you got to rely on. That's the memory you got to come back through. How did God get me out of that situation? If he got me out of that, he'll get me out of this. Some of us can look at it and go, you know, God got me out of porn addiction, got me out of drug addiction, got me out of lying, fornicating, orgies, got me out of cheating on tests, got me out of gossiping, got me out of hating. He got me out of all that stuff. And today I'm struggling because I don't have gas money and I don't know what to do. This God that got you out of all that stuff can't come up with $20 for you to get gas? That God is not the God of the Bible that we use to teach here at this church. But that's what we do. We don't embrace them. We don't remember them. We try to push them all out. We focus on the bad stuff instead of focus the good during the bad. You know, hospice is a wonderful thing, but it's also the worst thing ever because you're trying to provide comfort to people that are going through the worst thing in their life. They know they're dying. Their family members know they're dying. There is no positive unless they're saved out of this situation. So you're trying to take a bad situation and give them a pleasant experience while they're going through it. Doesn't that sound stupid? But that's the whole gist behind hospice, is taking a bad situation and trying to make it a pleasant experience. And you change people. You give them hope during the dying process. Not hope to not die, but hope that people still care and love them during the process. See, here as a church, we should be doing the same thing. You got a bad situation, and it's difficult and it's hard, but we're still going to try to take this bad situation that you're going through and give you a good experience while you're going through it, so that when the outcome is, and those people that are going through hospice, if they're saved, they're getting ready to have a really good experience at the end of all this. See, you got to embrace the experiences that you've had. Don't run away from them. Don't run away from them, because they're faster than you are. You realize that? No matter how fast you run, they always end up right in front of you. I don't know how they do it. It's like bad experience or like Flash Gordon, I guess. You can run as fast as you can, then there they are right in front of you. They're never behind you. You got to put them behind you. You got to put them behind you, and the best way to do that is to grab a hold of them and say, look, you don't control me anymore. I'm not afraid of you. I'm going to embrace the experience I went through, because you don't understand bad experiences. Let me tell you what God did with this. Let me tell you what God did with you. And all of a sudden, that big, bad experience starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller. You got to embrace it. You got to exploit the experiences with others. Look over in Proverbs with me. Proverbs 27, verse 17. He says, iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Oh, we got to exploit the experiences of others. We've got to learn from each other's experiences. That's what I said. If you've gone through something, if I don't know you've gone through it and I start going through it, I can't draw from you the experience and say, hey, what did it feel like when this happened? What did it feel like when the devil started attacking you? What did you do to get through it? What did God have you do? Did God get you through it? Yes, he did. Oh, my God, there's hope for me, right? I'm encouraged. But see, if you don't share yours, you don't embrace yours, you keep yours to yourself, then I can't use them, and you can't sharpen me to make me better. But if I'm also so bullheaded, then I'm not going to go to you and ask for it, then I can't be sharpened either. I can't be sharpened either. Look over in Proverbs 25:12. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on that iron sharpen iron, because I got something else for that later. So I don't want to give it away. It says, like an earring of gold and an ornament of fine gold is the rebuke of the wise judge to a listening ear. Another version is, a warning given by an experienced person to someone willing to listen is more valuable than gold. A warning given by an experienced person is more valuable than gold. But there's a part there. It's more than the warning given. It's someone willing to listen. Someone willing to listen. See, we're a society of know-it-alls. I know it all. It ain't going to happen to me. The famous last words, I can control myself. This ain't going to happen to me. And someone's saying, look, I'm telling you, I've been where you're at. Don't do it that way. Don't try it that way. Do it this way. No, you don't understand. I'm going to do it my way. Have you been through it before? No. But you think your way is better than mine? Teenagers are great for that. They know it all, even though they've not seen it, heard it, been through it, or know the outcome, but yet they know everything. And you tell them, you give them your experiences, you tell them what you've been through, you share with them, look, this is what you got to do. And they're like, nope, I already know it all. I'm going to do it my way. And then what happens? They come in your bedroom crying because it didn't work out the way they wanted. You're like, I tried to tell you. I tried to save you. All the pain, all the suffering. They don't want to exploit. They don't want to hear what other people think. They don't want to learn from you. And in those cases, you just sit there and you say, okay, now you're going to have an experience that you don't have to go through, but you're going to have one. And I'm still here. You know, when people give you advice, this has always been my advice to people, is I use the Bible as a filter to determine if somebody's experiences will help me or they'll hurt me. In other words, if they're giving me godly advice, where am I going to find confirmation of that advice? In the Bible. If they're giving me worldly advice, where am I going to find confirmation of that? Not in the Bible. You're not going to find that in the Bible. So that's what I go by. If someone tells me what I should do about a situation or how I should feel about something, the first thing I do is that the way God would want me to do it? If it is, then it's godly advice. This is wisdom. Someone gave me a piece of wisdom, and I'm going to follow that, and I'm going to glean from that. If it's something that contradicts what's in the Bible, I'm not going to follow it. And I'm not going to continue to pull from that experience of that individual, because I know no matter how that experience turned out for them, it wasn't the way that God had it. And if my whole experience is going to be based on God's purpose to find out what God has for me to determine my shape, I want to do it the way God had said for me to do it versus the way man has said me to do it. Is that not right? So I have to focus on what God had for me, not what man. So the best way to find the answer to that is to go to the Bible and say, look, this is what they told me to do. Is this confirmed in the Bible? Is this what Jesus would have done? Is this what God would have done? Is this what Paul wrote about? Is this what John wrote about? Or is this what they warned about and said, don't do it this way? See, people get mad sometime in the church, and they start gossiping amongst each other, and they look at each other, and the first thing they say is, well, we just need to find another church. Instead of what the Bible says. The Bible says, hey, you got a problem with each other, what do? You go and you talk to them. That's one. That's step one. Step two, if that don't work, you go to the elders and say, hey, we got an issue. We'd like to talk to you about it together and see if we can resolve it. That's step two. And then step three is if it can't be resolved, then you can resolve the relationship. You can separate whatever you want to do. But you know what? We all start to step three. You know what? I wouldn't put up with that. You just need to leave him. You just need to leave her. Oh, you know what? That church, I wouldn't go to that church either. And then you talk to them and say, hey, why'd you leave? Well, this was an issue. Did you ever tell us? No. Well, you know, that wasn't really a big deal. Whatever. You know, we're sorry we did that. It was an accident. We didn't mean that. We'd like to take it back, you know, whatever, depending on what it was. But no, we don't want to do the Bible way. We don't do it the way the Creator created us. We want to take those experiences, and now they have a bad experience at the church. Well, I had a bad experience at that church. Why? Well, because so-and-so said this and this, and that made me mad, and I left. Why'd you leave? Well, so-and-so told me that that's what they were going to do, so I left with them. Did you ever think about doing what God told you to do? Maybe you could make this experience a positive experience for someone else too. Maybe you could help somebody. But no, we're quick. You know, I get frustrated because people don't come to church, and we call them, we text them, we message them, we love on them, we do everything we can, and we try to get them to come back, and they don't come back, and they don't come back, and then finally they'll say, all right, I'm not coming back. And I'm like, okay, you know, I respect that. Can I ask why? Well, so-and-so made me mad. Well, when did that happen? 3 months ago. Did you talk to them? No. They know they made me mad. They did it on purpose. Did you talk to them? No. Why not? Well, they should have known. I haven't been there for 3 months. Yes, I know. We've been calling you. We've been trying to get you to come back. Why wouldn't you come back? Because I'm mad. They did me wrong, and I'm not coming back. Who's at fault? The person that wronged them or the person that didn't come back and fix it? The person that didn't come back to fix it. They were the one that was wrong. Because the person that wronged them, and when I go back and find out about it, they didn't even know. I didn't know they were mad at me. I knew they were acting weird, but I didn't know they were mad. What did I do? Well, they said you did this. Well, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even realize I did that. That's not what I meant. I was wondering why they all of a sudden unfriended me on Facebook, because, you know, if you unfriend somebody on Facebook, that means your life is over. That's how you know when somebody's mad at you, is they unfriend you on Facebook. If they unfriend you on Facebook, you know they're mad at you. And then 2 weeks later, they'll friend you again. And then they'll unfriend you when you make them mad again. It's like, seriously? There's nothing in the Bible about unfriending people on Facebook. I looked it up. It's not there. But it does say about conflict resolution and what we're supposed to do when we have these conflicts, when we're supposed to talk to each other. We're supposed to try to help each other. We're supposed to love on each other. We're supposed to reach out for each other. We're supposed to try to help people win. We're supposed to use experiences. Not only are we supposed to give it, not only are we supposed to seek it, but we're supposed to be willing to listen, because it's more valuable than gold. I guarantee you, this same person that you try to help, that you try to give them advice, if you offered them $200, they would take it, but they won't accept the advice on how to keep from needing $200. Did you hear that? If you offer them $200, they'll take it, meaning they'll take the gold. But if you offer them advice on how to not need the $200, not need how the gold, they don't want that. So they're not seeking a resolution. They're not exploiting your experiences of how you got through it. Instead, they just want the gifts. And that's why the Bible says, look, the experience, the knowledge, the advice from someone that has that wisdom, has been through it, is more valuable than the gold. Meaning, take that over the money. Take that Ellis, stop. Faking it. Stop it. Look over with me. Sorry, guys. Look over with me in 1 Corinthians. Chapter 10, verse 11. It says, these things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings for us, on whom the accumulation of the ages has come. So he says that these things that happened was an example for us. The things that are in the Bible are written there as an example for us. They were written down as a warning for us. That's what all of this here is all about. That's what we talked about when we did our Revelation study, is that I believe that these churches were a warning to us. This was God's way and Jesus' way of saying, look, this is what you got to be watched out for. This is what warning for us. As you look at these churches, you can see the churches that fall into these categories. You can go to a church, in any church, and you can quickly, if you understand what Jesus has been trying to tell us in Revelations, you can quickly understand what these churches fall into. And the frustrating part is I'm not some smart wizard. I'm not somebody that God gave more brain cells than someone else. I don't have a PhD in theology, but I'm smart enough to know what this is. And I guarantee you the people with PhDs know what this is too. They know what these are. They know the warnings that God said. He knows that they're on there, but they choose to follow them anyway. They choose to follow them anyway. This passage is so important as we begin to look at what God says, that these things happen to them as examples. The things that happen to you are examples for others. These experiences are experiences to help somebody. Might be your child, might be someone else's child, might be your brother, might be your brother in Christ, might be your sister sitting there beside you. It might be the person that's in the seat next to you that's not here right now, that needs your experiences. It says they were there for a purpose. They were examples. They were written down as a warning for us. They were there for us to know of the ages to come. We need to exploit the experiences of others. We've got to draw from them. We've got to ask them. We've got to talk to them. We've got to pull from them. Today it's even harder than ever to get people to, number one, ask for help, and number two, accept the help that you're giving them. People today, they just don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. They struggle. The last thing we got to do on how to use our experiences, employ your experiences to help others. Use your experiences to help others. Look over with me in 1 Thessalonians. Where'd it go? I've lost the tag already. No, I've lost my marker. On chapter 5, verse 11, it says, therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. He's telling the church of Thessalonians, he says, look, this is what you need to do. You got to encourage each other. That's the first thing you got to do. You got to encourage each other. When's the last time you encouraged somebody? When's the last time you built them up? When's the last time you told them that they were loved, that they're cared for, that they're... I mean, we're very quick to put stickers on people, like that book said. Hey, you did something wrong. Here's your you're wrong sticker. Hey, you dressed funny today. Here's your dressed funny sticker. Hey, you didn't take that corner like you're supposed to. Here's your I don't know how to take corner sticker. You know what? You didn't memorize a verse from last week. Here's your I don't love God sticker. Instead of saying, hey, dude, you did good, man. I saw you reading. Let me take that sticker away from you. You don't deserve that. You're trying to get closer to God, man. I've seen you studying. I've seen you read. You know, I really like where you're going. I like the relationship that you're building with God. Man, hey, let's take that other stupid sticker off. You don't need that sticker. Man, I love your dedication, you haven't missed a Sunday in forever, man. It's something that just makes me feel good. I walk into church and there you are. Man, that's awesome. I'm encouraged by that. You don't understand. There's days I don't want to be here, but I'm encouraged that I show up and there you are. But no, we want to knock people down. We want to kick them on the ground. We want to watch them. The much watched thing on YouTube is people falling. And I guarantee you it's not just unsaved people watching people fall. It's more gossip to talk about somebody falling. It's more gossip to talk about people not being here. It's more gossip to talk about how somebody screwed up than it is to talk about how somebody's built themselves up. When we get in our core meetings, that's what we talk about. We're worried about people that are falling. We discuss it, but what we really talk about is how so-and-so has been doing such and such, and what a blessing it is to see them growing, and how such and such is stepping up now, and they're doing this for God, and what a blessing that is to get to watch them, how it gives purpose to what we're going through, to what we're doing. And hey, let's make sure we talk to so-and-so and let them know that we appreciate them doing this and we appreciate them doing that. You got to build each other up, not tear each other down. Because if I realize something, that if you build something, a house, a wall, whatever you want to build, what happens as you begin to build it? It gets stronger and taller. But when you tear something down, what happens? It gets weaker until what? You got nothing. Did you realize that? If you begin to tear something down, you got nothing. You start constantly trying to tear people down, you're going to end up with nothing. You got to build them up, make them stronger, make them able to do the things that God has them to do. Look over in 2 Corinthians. Chapter 1, verse 5 through 6 says, "For we just as we share abundantly in the suffering of Christ, so also our comfort abounds through Christ. If we were distressed, it is not for your comfort and salvation. If we were comforted, it is not for your comfort, which produces in you patience, endurance of the same suffering we suffer." See, this is about our experience. He says God gives us all comfort in our trials so that we should turn, so that we in turn may be able to give the same sort of strong sympathy to the others in trouble. So he gives us comfort during our trials so that we can encourage others that while they're going through their trials, while they're going through their troubles, that they can lean on God just like we did. Just as a testimony, as an encouragement of what we went through and that God helped us get through it. See, our experiences, as we mentioned before, they could be good or bad. We can use those experiences to be bitter, or we can use them to be better. It's up to you. But I've never seen anybody that has chosen their experiences to be better, be unhappy. And I've never seen anybody that's chosen their experiences to be bitter, to be happy. So the choice is yours. So we finished our series. It's been 6 weeks of looking at how God shaped us, that we're shaped for significance. We've looked at our spiritual gifts. We've looked at the heart of man. We've looked at our abilities. We looked at the personalities, and now we've looked at our experiences. The question for you today is, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? Because see, if you're going to do nothing with it, then this past 6 weeks has been in vain. If you're not going to do anything with it, then what you're saying is, hey, God, I know you've shaped me and you made me, but I don't care. I don't care. It's all about me, and that's all that matters. Or you can say, you know what, God, I want my spiritual gifts to matter, because as he's told the servant that didn't use his spiritual gifts, didn't use the gifts, didn't use the talents that he gave him, he took them back and said, here, give them to the ones that did. God's giving you a spiritual gift and you're just sitting on it. When the time comes, he's going to be like, you don't deserve it, just give it back. I'm going to take it and give it to somebody else. We talked about the heart of the man, and the heart is where God has created your passions, your desires. And where your heart is where you'll serve, is where you'll go. We talked about the abilities and the difference between gifts and abilities. And your abilities is the special things that you can do. It's not a spiritual gift, but it's the abilities, whether you're a mechanic, or you do air conditioning, or you do plumbing, or you take care of people in nursing, or if you're a doctor, or if you're whatever, construction, building things. Those are your abilities. Are you using those abilities for God, or are you using them for yourself? And we talked about the personality and how there's people that their personality just rubs us wrong, or we just don't like them. And the Bible's very clear. It says that we're supposed to accept them because that personality is designed because that's the way God made them and created them. And their personality fits the niche of what God has planned for them. And just like the rest of our body, that purpose of that particular part of our body is significant. And if you take it and you try to make it do something else, it doesn't work very well. So we got to accept the people with their different personalities. And now we talked about experiences and how God has used those experiences, how we are to use those experiences, that we can make a choice on the bad experiences to be bitter and to be angry and to let them control us, or we can get rid of them and say, look, I'm going to use this to be better. What you used to try to hurt me, I'm going to use, God used for good. And I'm going to take those experiences and I'm going to do something good with them. I'm going to help somebody else. And just like Joseph, he could have very easily just said, I'm going to be bitter. He could have had his brothers put in jail. He could have had them killed. He could have had his land suffer. The place, his family, his relatives could have continued to suffer in famine. He could have continued to be bitter about what they did. But instead he said, look, I know this God. And I know that God allowed this to happen because he had a purpose for me. And this purpose was that I could save not only my family, but I could save others by being where I'm at today. See, the things that you go through, you don't think that God's going to use them. But I'm telling you right now, God's going to use what you've been through. He's done it for everybody I know that has relinquished control and said, okay, God, I didn't like it. It sucked, but I know you got something for me. I know you got something for me, and I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to ride this out to the very end. I tell you what, if you get on a scary roller coaster, there's parts of that scary roller coaster that are scary, are they not? There's parts of it when you're going up there and you get scared, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where you're going to turn. You don't know if you're going to flip upside down. You don't know if you're going to go fast. You don't know what's going to happen. But all you know is at the end of the ride, you had a good time after you cleaned the throw up off your face. I'm telling you, some of our experiences are the same way. We go through it. It might be scary. It might suck. It may be turn us upside down. We may actually throw up in the middle of it. But at the end, we're like, oh, what a ride. Because look where God got us. Look at what I see today that has changed. Just because I experienced what I experienced. Or you see someone that's wallowing and you see them down there and they're crying and they can't move. They're paralyzed by the experience, by the life that they're going through. And you're able to walk up to them. You're able to put your arm around them and you're able to say, I've been there. Let me tell you what my life was like. And all of a sudden they're not alone anymore. And they look at you and you go, but you're not like this. What happened? And you say, let me tell you what God did. Let me tell you what God did in my life. It took me going through what you're going through right now for me to realize it. But because I went through what you're going through right now, God was able to do this in my life. And now, thank God, I'm able to sit here and I'm able to share this with you. And I can help you through this. Or you see somebody is getting ready to go through it and you can say, hey, look, I love you. I mean this out of love. You take it as you want, but I mean it out of love. Let me tell you, this is my story. And I don't want you going through this. God sent me to you to protect you. He sent me to you to keep you from going through this again. And I don't want you going through it. Let me help you. The choice is yours. We're going to dim the lights. We're going to have the altar for you. We're going to stand. We're still going to stand. The way the altar works is very simple. This is your time between you and God. There should be something between the spiritual gifts, between your heart, between your abilities, your personalities, your experiences, something in those 5 steps that you need to talk to God about. There's got to be something of, hey, I'm not using my spiritual gifts, God. How do you want me to use them? Hey, God, my heart is not in the right place. How can you mend that? Hey, God, my abilities, I haven't used a single ability to serve you. I'm selfish. I'm using them all for me. My personality, Lord, I don't accept others. Or my experiences, I've been hiding and I don't share with others. I don't try to help others be built up. I don't allow people to help me. This is your time to come to the altar and say, God, I'm going to give it all to you. And today I'm going to make a difference. Today my shape is going to be the shape that you've designed me to be, not the shape I want it to be. This is not my life. This is your life, and I'm giving it to you. And that everything I do from this day forward is going to be based on you, not based on me. You can very easily ignore me. You can very easily, sadly, ignore what God's telling you right now. Or you can today make that change. Right now you can say, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I've accepted who I am because you have accepted who I am. I love me because you have loved me. And now I want to be who you want me to be. I'm not done yet. I know you will still be working on me. I know you'll still be shaping me. But I know that I'm prepared to quit fighting you. I'm prepared today to stop fighting. Take this time and talk to the Lord.
come awake me from my sleep. Blow through the caverns of my soul, pour in me to overflow. Soul, pour in me to overflow, to overflow. No place I would rather be, no place I would rather be, no place I would rather be than here in your love. No place I would rather be, no place I would rather be, no place I would rather be than here in your love, here in your love. Set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain, that I can't control. I want more of you, God. I want more of you, God. No place I would rather be, no place I would rather be, no place I would rather be than here in your love, here in your love. This place I would rather be, no place I would rather be, no place I would rather be than here in your love, here in your love. Set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain, that I can't control. I want more of you, God. I want more of you, God. Spirit of the living God, come fall afresh on me. Come awake me from my sleep. Blow through the caverns of my soul, pour in me to overflow, to overflow. Spirit of the living God, come fall afresh on me. Come awake me in my sleep. Blow through the caverns of my soul, pour in me to overflow, to overflow.
It's funny that today we ended the series with experiences. And we got a couple of experiences that you get to take an opportunity to be part of with here at Yahweh. Thursday night we're doing our first bike night here at the church. I'm very excited about it. God's not only blessed us with the building and the church area here, but this big lot over on the across the side here. And it's going to be an opportunity for us to be able to just love on people. You know, our goal isn't to bring into the church. Our goal is to take the church out there to the people and let them see what love looks like, what people that care about them. And we get to see some cool bikes, I'm hoping. So we will need some help that night. We're going to obviously have some music playing out there. We got hot dogs that the youth will be grilling out for us, and we're going to have drinks for people that are going to be coming, and just people to just be there to talk to people, love on them, fellowship with them. We're going to have the church open for people to come in to not only use the restroom, but if they just want to stuff, so we'll need some people here in the church to greet people as they come up to use the restroom or just up to them. So I hope everybody can be part of that. I'll be here probably around 6 o'clock to start helping get everything set up. It starts at 7, and we're going to end about 10, so we'll need some help putting everything, breaking everything down and cleaning up afterwards. But I hope everyone that is free can come out. If you're not able to, or even if you are coming, just make sure to share it with everybody the next few days. People get busy, they forget about stuff, so just make sure we start really sharing it on Facebook and whatever other media that you have to let people know about it. So that's Thursday, and then am I still on? I've never been told you can't hear me. That's crazy. So that's Thursday, 18th. Bike night. Okay. Bike night is Thursday. We're going to be here. I'll be here at 6. I'm going to need, it starts at 7. It's 7 to 10. Volunteers here. We're going to have hot dogs and drinks that will be provided for people that come. The church will be open. One is for the restrooms, and the other if people just want to see what the church looks like and stuff. So I'll need some people that will be here in the church to, I don't know if I just, there it goes. Need some people here in the church to help out with, moving people along, make sure they get taken care of while they're inside the church. So if you can help, be here at 6. We'll find a job for you, and I expect the youth to all be here because, like I said, we'll be grilling out hot dogs and stuff, so I'll need them to man the grill and take care of that. So hopefully they can be here for that. On the 20th, if you haven't noticed, we got all those shoe boxes back here in the back. 20th, we're going to be up to Charlotte. Kickstands up at 9. So whether you're on a bike, be here before 9 because we'll be heading out at that point. I think Tuesday night, some of the women are going to box some more boxes. Is that right? You think you're about done? We only have 80 boxes. We only have 80 boxes. We only have 80 boxes. So apparently we have a failure to communicate. Okay. Anyway, so hopefully they'll be doing some more boxes after that. So on the 20th, we're going to be riding up there. If you haven't done that before, last year was our first year doing it. It's a lot of fun. We ride up there together as a group. They feed us while we're there. You get to walk through the Billy Graham Museum and the different things. Yeah. So if you're planning on going, I think we have it on Facebook. You can register there, or you can let us know, Crystal knows, so that I can register you because they do. I think last year they had Chick-fil-A for us, so they do. So anyway, if you can go or you want to go, make sure to let me know. That way, at 9 o'clock, if you're not here and you're supposed to be here, I can wait and reach out for you, or I'm not waiting because I think you're coming. So just let us know if you're planning on making that. Either today or Thursday if you're coming to the Thursday event as well. So those are the two big things that we got coming up this weekend. And then there's going to be a big event in November. We'll talk more about that later, but you've probably seen it on Facebook that we're participating in Aiken, the Blood and Steel Revival. I'm very excited about that. It's centered around God, so anything that's God-related is free. So that means coming is free. Camping is free, preaching is free, the concert afterwards is free, so all of that is free. The only thing we're charging for is if you want to get a t-shirt, if you want to buy a shop rag, or you want to go on the ride. All the money that's raised, will go to the Good Samaritan Clinic, which is a free clinic that's here in South Carolina that not only provides medical care but spiritual care for people that are there. So we really want to do our part to lift God up while we're there, but also raise money for that cause. Because like I said, it's not only a medical need but a spiritual need, and you don't see that too much anymore. And so if you can be part of that, like I said, the information's on Facebook. We do have our own Facebook site, the Blood and Steel Rodeo Revival. So you can go look at that if you want some more information. There's games, bike games. So if you don't ride, you can come and watch people. It's watching some people that think they can ride find out they can't. and those that can ride to see them do stuff on their bikes that you're like, wow, I couldn't imagine that. And then, like I said, just a fellowship. The 2 bands that are coming are listed on the, they are extremely good. It's not just some mom and pop band that we picked. These guys are really good. And then the 2 preachers that are preaching. You don't have to listen to me on the weekend, so you only have to listen to me on Sunday. So hopefully you guys can come out to those things. Bike night Thursday, 6 o'clock if you're going to help, 7 if you're just going to chill out and enjoy it. And then the bikers with boxes on Saturday, leaving out of here at 9 o'clock here at the church. Oh, yeah, and we do need cars for Saturday to those boxes. So, okay. All right, anything else?
Let's pray. Lord, we just thank you so much for this time together. I thank you, Lord, that you give us the experiences that we have, Lord, that those experiences are going to be used for your good to glorify you. Lord, I just pray that you would speak to each of us. Help us to find the pearls, the wisdom that's in those experiences so we can learn from that, so we can pass that on to others. Lord, help us to look at our shape and show us how you would like to use us. And Lord, I just pray that we would all be obedient to that call. When we leave here today, I just pray that you would help us to carry your light into the world. Help us to show a lost world that you love them and let them see the good in you through us. Ask us in Jesus' name. Amen.